Hello guys, you are live with Fashion Cross Functional. Today is going to be about the three major basics you need to work on before getting into the financial estimates of your fashion brand. So before we dive into that matter, I'd like to give some context. I wrote the Fashion Business Plan book from the moment I started working for fashion designers. Actually, I come from the auditing and finance sector. I have audited many companies across the globe, and I actually practice this for large international listed companies in the industrial and banking field, and especially in the banking industry. Part of my job was also to evaluate loan applications from companies. So my role was to review the applications and decide if the applicant companies should be granted the loan. So writing or reviewing business plans finally became something that I got pretty much accustomed to. And to be perfectly honest with you, when I was asked to do it in the fashion sector, I encountered some difficulties at the beginning. In fact, usually, when you write a business plan, it is important to think about a gap in the market and how your product is going to change that. So it means that in classic business plans, you need to have a gap, and your product would be a solution to that gap. Okay. In most of the books that exist today on the market, it is recommended to start your business plan by identifying an unfulfilled need, so this gap. So in most books on the subject, you will read that it is necessary to identify this gap first, a need from the start, and to present a solution which will be discussed in the business plan. And yet, fashion cannot be considered like that. Okay, it is very special. If we are being completely honest here, we don't need another brand. We don't need another fashion brand because it's a saturated market already. So presenting fashion from the classic angle of a solution offered to fulfill a need doesn't work for a fashion product. So designers who start in this industry need to get that it is vital to your business to go beyond the need, okay? In fashion, instead of a need, it is important to create a strong impact from the beginning. Because when you make a strong impact, you create a desire. You have to make people want and desire your brand. So in order to do that, you have to create emotions. You have to really move people, right? But that's not enough, right? This is already difficult, but it's not even enough, because on top of that, you also have to build a whole business model based on this desire. So it means that the fashion concept has to last in time. And if the fashion concept doesn't last, if the emotion you create is just temporary, you have no valid foundation for a fashion business. This became clear to me when working with fashion brands. I observed that the fashion business plan was very different from what was done in other industries, and that's where I started thinking about a method to generate it. So before we dive into the subject, I would also like to clarify what is a business plan. A business plan is a document that helps you explain a project, the strategy that you will apply to make a business out of your concept, with the related financial projections, of course. As you may guess, this is quite a massive work. So the question some of you may have is, do you really need to go through all that fuss? And some of you, for example, tell me that you are planning something quite simple and you don't plan to apply for a loan or find investors. So you don't understand why you would need to go through a business plan, right? And I always answer that it is always good to have a business plan, even a simplified one, even if you are not going to look for funding. Why? Because at least when you do one, even something simplified, you know where it is going and you have an idea of how many of the dresses you made it will take you to break even, right? This is also an interesting info even for you personally, right? You probably want to know when you will be able to earn your first salary, because it's fine and good to sell fabulous outfits, but you also need to earn a living out of it. Otherwise, it won't last. So that is one reason to start drafting a business plan. And in the case where you look for funding or even look for serious business partners to collaborate with, it's good to have a business plan to show that you are not completely clueless and you know what you are talking about. This is actually one of the preconceptions that people from finance have in their mind when they're thinking about fashion creatives, right? and you don't want to prove them right from the first meeting. I'm not telling you to lie about who you are, but at least have a down-to-earth approach that indicates that you know your market and the steps to follow to get your collection sold. It doesn't mean that you are doomed if you don't do exactly what's in the business plan, but it's a way to communicate with other parties, a courtesy, the least you can do when you ask for someone's money. I've seen people get angry about having to do all these financial estimates. Presenting a business plan, especially a valid one, means that you have a plan. Nobody will be angry at you if you don't do exactly what's written there, but it says that you have a plan, and when people lend you money, you need to show that you have an idea of how you're going to use their money. It's the equivalent of a resume when you apply for a job. Now that we are clear about that, I suggest we dive into the topic, so I suggest that we see each other in a bit. Hello again, guys. You are back on Fashion Cross Functional. You are live with us. For those who don't know me, I am Bakou Rambini from Fashion Cross Functional, in short, Fashion FXF. Today, I'm going to unveil the 3 major things you need to get straightened out before calculating the financial estimates of your fashion brand DNA. So, without waiting, here is the basic number 1. Be 100% cohesive. This is actually the difference with other industries. You have to make an impact. You have to be cohesive. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the difference with business plans in other industries is this necessity to make a strong impact from the beginning. So this cohesion thing is a key element that you really need to understand. And it doesn't matter if you're a sustainable brand, an ethnic brand, a fashion tech brand. A fashion product has to make a strong impact from the beginning, okay? And the way to achieve that impact is through the cohesion you achieve through your entire project. So what does this mean concretely? Firstly, you have to speak the language of fashion. Meaning, you have to understand that in this industry, looks and visuals have to be perfectly polished. There is absolutely no excuse for that. I said it already in previous live videos, but I insist, please, because lots of beginners in the industry do not understand that. It's like when you go to a phone company and you buy a smartphone, the salesperson will talk about the features of the smartphone, what's new, and they maybe will compare it to the competition. However, no one will ever promote you a smartphone by telling you that it can call, that it can make calls. Actually, for a smartphone, making a call is a given, right? So it's the same in fashion. Excellent visuals, photos, videos, websites, lookbooks, Instagram profiles. So excellent visuals are a given. You have to do whatever it takes to have a good presentation. One of my customers told me once that she didn't have enough money to do good visuals, and I showed her websites of new designers who were penniless, and those still looked fabulous. They made it work. So why wouldn't you, right? So when you take a picture of your design, put a good lighting. Please don't leave pictures with yellow lights, right? Remove the clutter behind. Choose a plain background, or if it is cluttered, it has to be artistically interesting and sophisticated somehow. Then the model's posture and pose has to be highlighted in your design. You have to underline a silhouette, but it has to be visually striking and interesting, okay? So once you understand the language of fashion, you have to make sure that your entire brand is cohesive. It means that if you say you are a futuristic fashion brand, for example, it has to show in your design. It has to show in the material you use. Maybe you'll use tech fabric mixed with metal, I don't know. It also has to show in the cut you choose, in the cut of your garments, right? Maybe the clothes you design will have many geometric shapes. Then in the way you market your product, you will also distribute your clothes in the places that are more open to that kind of fashion. Asian markets, Japan, China, South Korea, maybe also London, New York. could be a good fit, right? Then if you do an event to promote the brand, you will make sure to collaborate with very futuristic DJs or tech companies to set the tone of your event. Then in your communication, on top of the traditional fashion magazines, you could also think of maybe, I don't know, being featured in avant-garde futuristic magazines. Why? Because there's a good chance that people who like futuristic trends read those magazines. And if you decide, for example, to give some of your profits to a charity, if you're a futuristic brand, find one that shares your love for the futuristic world and helps to advance the research in that field, for example, right? So, number one, basic, be 100% cohesive. Okay? So, let's move on to basic number two. You have to be crystal clear on your fashion brand DNA. In order to be able to align your business and be totally cohesive, you need to know what to align to, actually, right? Are you going to go 100% on this futuristic side? Or maybe you're the kind of brand that needs to focus more on the classic style? How to know what exactly to align to, actually? Well, you need to understand and define your brand DNA first. Before I give you elements on this, since many designers ask me what it is, I wanted to clarify that first. Well, like a person's DNA makes a person unique, a fashion brand DNA is what makes your fashion brand unique. So it's sort of an identity card of your fashion brand. And before you draft your business plan, you have to be crystal clear on yours. Why? Because as we said in the beginning, the number one criteria to make a fashion business fundable is the strength of its impact. And we said you achieve that by aligning everything. However, you need to know what to align to. And this is why you need a fashion brand DNA, because it will be the pillar to which you will align everything in your business. So how do you do that? Well, at Fashion FXF, we have a 4-hour individual workshop to work on that matter. And we go deep through your history, what inspires you in general, and what inspired you to create the brand. We make a connection between everything, so between your story, your inspirations, be it commercials, movies, ads, paintings, music, books, anything that inspires you. We also connect all that to your actual design, to where you want to go, to who you could target with your designs, and we define exactly what the brand is about. We try to establish a pattern and find similarities between all the things you said, and based on that, we define the identity card of your fashion brand. So the physical traits that are always present in your design, and it's not only about the logo, it's also the cut, the silhouette, and so on. It's the brand personality, it's culture, what people say when they wear it, and what people think when they see the brand on someone else, and how the brand interacts with people. Well, actually, the fashion brand DNA contains all that, okay? So the idea in the end is to really create a character with your brand. You have all the detailed steps of this workshop summarized in my book called The Fashion Business Plan. That includes a workbook that you can immediately apply, and you can immediately apply what you've learned. So it looks like this. Let's move on to basic number 3. Tailor your business strategy to your fashion brand DNA. Okay, so the third step to work on before crunching the numbers for your fashion brand is actually aligning the strategy to your fashion brand DNA. I mean, I get it. When you just start, there's a little chance that you are overwhelmed with information and you don't know exactly what to do. You might be overwhelmed with information, plus you probably learn many new things, and strategy is key. So at the beginning, you will maybe learn the elements of a well-rounded fashion business strategy. So you will probably confirm the exact customer that you target, the price point of your products. Then you will maybe decide what you will set up to reach your target customer, right? Which distribution strategy you will go for, fully online, partly offline with pop-up stores, for example, trunk shows in department stores, wholesale, online and or offline multi-brand, and so on. Then you will probably decide to promote your events and show your fashion line to your target customer. By the way, you don't systematically have to do a fashion show. Fashion shows are good if you are already confident about what your brand is about and if you can fund it. Plus, you have to select the good ones. Maybe you can organize a private event in a showroom or even in a place that tells the story of your brand, and you can invite your target audience there. In the meantime, of course, it is expected that you know where your target customer spends time, which brand and stores they like, what magazines they read, which Facebook group they mostly follow, what hashtag they use on Instagram, and so on. So this approach is quite standard to any industry. However, in order to have a better chance to succeed in your fashion business and to generate the impact we keep talking about, you absolutely need to adjust your strategy to the brand DNA that you defined earlier. So for example, I love what Dolce & Gabbana did these last years to remind people of its Sicilian influence. I was in Milan last year and I took amazing photos of their flagship windows via Monte Napoleone. It was really magical. And they went 100% on the Sicilian concept, made small reproductions of the market, and the craft was impressive. So I've prepared a little slideshow to show you what they did. It was really impressive, and the craft was really beautiful. Well, that's actually no surprise because it's a must-have in this industry, right? But you know, it was really worth looking at. It was worth going there. You have to understand that what's happening in today's market, people. You know, there are many ways to consume fashion these days, and since we have the comfort of internet, when you have a brick and mortar shop, you really have to go the extra mile and make it worthwhile for your audience. Why should they leave their couch and go there? You have to offer an experience offline that your customer would never have online, and that your customer would never have at any other brand, right? You have to make them feel something. The only way to do that is to revisit your strategy using the angle of your brand DNA. So, strong Sicilian concept for Dolce & Gabbana in the store. And you see the Sicilian influence everywhere. So also in the commercial, and here I've also prepared their commercial for summer spring 2017. I don't know if you've noticed, but they kept that strong traditional and popular print in their recent commercials. So you will see some very strong references in their latest commercials, including this one that I'm showing. So yeah, it is very strong, and as you may see, they have hired also celebrities, Zendaya, to be featured in the video. But having a celebrity is not enough. You have to be cohesive, to have a concept, right? It's not about just having a celebrity. It has to be an entire concept that you lay out. So this is how you keep things cohesive. And once you know what kind of strategy you are going to apply and how you are going to tailor it to your fashion brand DNA, then only you can price and cost what you are going to do. So once you're done with those 3 steps, you can think of how to do your financial projections and so on. So in order to guide you into these steps for your own brand, we also have it detailed in our fashion business plan book. So the book gives a method to find and confirm your target audience with a dedicated workbook as well. Then in another chapter, it summarizes a few strategic directions you can go for, knowing of course that you have to tailor it to your brand DNA afterwards, of course, as we said before. And there's a workbook for that strategy chapter as well, of course.